This is random. I was just at the supermarket and they were playing Here Comes Santa Claus, and I was listening to the background singers. I'm like, where are they from? I can recognize them. It's so familiar. And I realized, I think, maybe, perhaps, they're the same background singers from the Whitest Kids You Know's Hitler Rap, a.k.a. Triumph of the Ill. Great video if you've never seen it. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Trevor Noah, you never hear anything about him. Well, he's hosting the Grammys again, third year in a row. Trevor said, I'm enjoying the fact that we're juggling flaming swords, just putting it all together, combining different genres, getting the musicians in sync with each other and the audience, keeping the audience in tune with what's happening. One of my favorite things about the Grammys as a whole is it's one of the few places where you get to experience artists in their rawest element, which is performing their music live. Brandi Carlile performing a song live, and you're hearing her voice and listening to her play her instruments. There's nothing like it. You develop a deep appreciation for what these people are doing beyond just the music that they make. The Grammy Awards in Los Angeles, February 5th. A pair of Dave Chappelle stories. He's ticked off the people of Adelaide, Australia. Dave Chappelle announced he's touring Australia. What's the problem? Well, he's going to Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, but he's not going to Adelaide. Adelaide on the southern coast there. The locals are raged about being left out once again. Now, as a coincidence, Mark Francis, who hosts the Palace Intrigue podcast, the one about the royal family that I'm the writer on that I talk about all the time, Mark is from Adelaide, Australia. So I sent him this story, and he caught one of the cities on Chappelle's itinerary that I left out. And Mark said to me, who goes to Wollongong but not Adelaide? Apparently Dave Chappelle. Perth, Wollongong, Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. I was not familiar with Wollongong. Apparently it's on the coast south of Sydney. Australia's awesome. Less funny, remember the man who allegedly attacked Dave Chappelle when Dave was back on stage? And I say allegedly because, it was alleged. Well, the man has pleaded no contest. So apparently Isaiah Lee agrees that he did attack Dave Chappelle. So I don't have to say alleged anymore. Isaiah Lee was charged with 1 misdemeanor count each of battery and entering a restricted area during a live event. He was sentenced to 270 days in county jail. Another comedian who had been attacked was Chris Redd. Remember, he was attacked outside the Comedy Cellar? Chris recently said, people called it a random attack. I don't believe it. He waited for me for an hour before I got there. He was on the phone. He had a lookout dude and everything. All I'm saying is I've never done nothing random where it took me an hour to do it. I've never just randomly did a thing that took a buildup. That's not what random is. So I will say it was a planned situation. Wow. That's what I feel like in my heart and soul. That's what I saw in the footage. Chris Redd said he probably will release the footage sometime in the future, and he joked that the attack did wonders for him as it made people aware that he had a comedy special on HBO Max. That makes me suspicious now, Chris Redd. Clearly you got punched, but now I'm like, Chris Redd said no promotion was better than getting knocked in the effing face. People didn't even know I had a special out there, and they were like, I hope he's okay. Wait, what special? I'm still fired up that they're giving the Mark Twain prize to Adam Sandler. I'm like sitting in the basement muttering to myself, Mark Twain, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, Jon Stewart, Adam Sandler? Couldn't you give it to, I don't know, Chris Rock? Couldn't you give it to, I don't know, Bob Newhart, Carol Burnett, Stephen Colbert, someone like that? Adam Sandler? Happy Gilmore? The guy who made Jack and Jill? The guy that made Hubie Halloween? We're giving him the Mark Twain Prize for Humor? No. Even the Golden Globes have more taste. They're giving the Cecil B. DeMille Award to Eddie Murphy. Yeah, good choice. Who else has won the Cecil B. DeMille Award, you wonder? Well, people like Jodie Foster, Jane Fonda, Oprah Winfrey, Robert De Niro, Audrey Hepburn, and Tom Hanks. And if I read you a list of people and I go, Jodie Foster, Jane Fonda, Oprah Winfrey, Robert De Niro, Audrey Hepburn, Tom Hanks, Eddie Murphy, you don't question the Eddie Murphy at the end. Now let me read you another list. Mark Twain, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Jon Stewart, Dave Chappelle, Adam Sandler. Which one of these does not belong? While Johnny Mac's fired up, Consequence named their Comedian of the Year. Here, I'll give you a couple seconds to guess. Of 2022, who do you think the Comedian of the Year is? Are you guessing Dave Chappelle? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Dave gets a lot of media coverage. He's got something to say. He's controversial. Yeah, it could absolutely be. Nope, it's not Dave Chappelle. All right, so obviously it's Chris Rock, right? He got dragged into the news, unfortunately, but he's been in the spotlight all year, so clearly Chris Rock. Nope. It's Joel Kim Booster. What? That's insane. Now, I have street cred here. I host the weekly comedy thing on Live One, which was formerly called Live by Live, which was formerly called Slacker Radio. I've been hosting that show for like 9 years. And since I saw Joel Kim Booster at New Faces in Montreal, which I'm going to Google now to find out what year that was. That was 2016. That was quite the crew that year. I'm also seeing on that list Joel Kim Booster, Tim Dillon, Naomi Ekperigin, Joe Firestone, Chris Garcia. He was great. His career never really took off. Jackie Novak. So since 2016, the audience on the weekly comedy thing has heard me talk about Joel Kim Booster. So I've been a big supporter. But to name him Comedian of the Year, Consequence, you're insane. Are you also behind the Mark Twain Awards? Joel's into celebrity game shows. He says, I'm handing my reps to see what game shows they can get me on. It's the best fringe benefit of his summer of success in general, being on every celebrity version of anything that needs at least one celebrity that 90% of the audience goes, who's that? How are they a celebrity? I'm happy to fill that role in as many celebrity versions of game shows as possible. Consequence says, the year saw the actor, writer, and comedian release his first Netflix stand-up special and star in the critically acclaimed Fire Island. I have to watch that special. I've got my end of the year almost ready. One more to watch. Okay. He says of his special, it's really sort of a meta-commentary on representation because I got pulled into being a representative. I represent the gay community. I represent the Asian community. So a lot of the special through these bits is very self-aware about what makes a bad representative and what makes me a good representative and all these things. And really my struggle to not want to be a representative at all. That's sort of the through line of the set. He's working on a new hour, but he says it's frustrating because my last Netflix special, which is the culmination of a couple years of work, was crafted on a minute level over the course of several years, going up at bar shows and doing shorter sets. Now, most of the time I'm doing stand-up, I'm doing headlining shows, and I'm doing an hour, so I'm not getting the same amount of workshop time to focus on these individual pieces. I like you, Joel, but other comedians have ways to do that. Have you ever heard me read a story where I'm like, Chris Rock popped into the Comedy Cellar? You can do unannounced sets, you know. You don't have to do an hour at a theater. You could drop in somewhere. They'll let you go up, I promise you. In 2023, he'll be, quote, grounded in LA for about half the year, shooting Loot Season 2. Joel Kim Booster says, I'm hoping with that time I'll be able to find more time to go up regularly here in LA and get back to that same rhythm. Loot is a dream job, but it's also the closest thing I've ever had a stable 9 to 5, give or take a few hours on either end. So it's bringing me back to the time where I had a day job and would clock in, do my work, then clock out, and do stand-up until as late as I possibly could. Yes, do that. Comedian of the Year Joel Kim Booster says once you become successful as a stand-up, that's when they come knocking and want you to write and want you to act, and suddenly you have no time to do the thing that gave you the opportunity in the first place. This next thing, I haven't looked at all. I want to react to it in the moment. I don't know what's about to happen for real. Didn't look at this at all. From Vulture, it's the best comedy podcast of 2022. Who knows? Maybe this show's on the list. I doubt it, but who knows? All right, let's see what they got here. Number 10, Blocked Party. Honestly, never heard of it. One of the outstanding episodes they shared was a man professionally known as Sexual Jumanji detailed having Joe Rogan go to bat for him against Elon Musk. Seems to be about social media. Never heard of it. Number 9, best comedy podcast of 2022, and I'm not claiming that I know everything, but my phone's in my hand 20 hours a day. Number 9 is Normal Gossip. Hosted by author and self-proclaimed gossip queen Kelsey McKinney, Normal Gossip is a thoughtfully curated, highly addictive collection of listener-submitted gossip, from knitting group revenge plots to mundane coworker conflicts. Not familiar with it. Not saying I know everything. Just reading you Vulture's list of the top 10 comedy podcasts of the year to review. So far, we've had Blocked Party and Normal Gossip. I'm sure you download them. Number 8, Ghosted by Roz Hernandez. You know what's weird about this one? I've never heard of it. It's number 8. Again, I don't claim to know everything. I will tell you, I've been hosting this podcast for, I think we're up to 1,200 something episodes now. I've worked in podcasting professionally for 7 years. I've worked in comedy, radio, audio, whatever this is now for 15. My phone's in my hand 20 hours a day. Every day to prep for this podcast, I read several websites and I Google the words comedy and comedian. Ghosted by Roz Hernandez, number 8. I'm sure it's on your list. Whether you're fascinated, skeptical, or agnostic about the paranormal. Boy, I've been negative lately, right? Are you guys like, what is up with him? I'm just reading the news. I don't know what it's been. Should I find some happy stories? So I'm like, oh, Mitch Hedberg, la, 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 la. Whether you're fascinated, skeptical, or agnostic about the paranormal, there's no better or funnier guide to it than drag comedian Roz Hernandez. She doesn't claim to have a sixth sense, but her experience with the supernatural goes back to her childhood. All right, let's see what number 7 is. I scroll down. The Read. All right, I've heard of The Read. The Read. Hilarious and honest musings on life, pop culture, politics, relationships, and everything in between. All right, cool. Number 7 is The Read. Number 6, I actually listened to this one. The Always Sunny Podcast. The podcast that makes you wonder, hey, maybe Glenn Howerton is actually a jerk. You ever do that when you listen to this podcast? I don't know, Glenn. Maybe you're doing an act. I don't know. Boy, Johnny Mac, calm down. What is with you today? You're so negative. On the Always Sunny podcast, Rob McElhenney, Glenn Howerton, and Charlie Day, in theory, recap episodes, but they never actually recap them, and it's basically like hanging out with the three guys at the bar. It's a very nice listen, highly recommended by me, but you might wonder about Glenn Howerton sometimes. Number 5, Fly on the Wall, Dana Carvey and Dana Spade. That should be way up this list. I don't know what's to come, but they had a great year with Tom Hanks, Tina Fey, Chris Rock, Paul McCartney. Lorne Michaels was on the show, right? Yeah, that's in my rotation. You should definitely listen to that one. Number 4, Y'all Gay. Possesses a rhetorical question. Since the podcast is in the host's own words for everyone, this inclusive invite seems inextricably linked to Clayton and Maynard's Southern upbringing. Never heard of it? Can't tell you. Number 3, I think I've heard of this. Couples Therapy. This is a fascinating list, Vulture, the best comedy podcast of 2022. Couples Therapy, a spinoff of the live show hosted by comedians Naomi Ekperigin and Andy Beckerman. A married couple has aged like a fine wine. It doesn't need a gimmick. Their chemistry and bright voices in entertainment, the couple call friends. The podcast feels like a standing invitation to a weekly dinner party. Number 2, Dead Eyes. I heard of this thing. This is the thing. The setup here was the guy was an actor, and supposedly Tom Hanks said that Ratliff had dead eyes, and this whole thing, people seem to like it. And number 1 on the list of the best comedy podcasts of 2022, Stradiolab. There are some honorable mentions here. My Dad Wrote a Porno. That show just ended. And by honorable mentions, I scrolled down and I told you I didn't pre-read this. Apparently Vulture means honorable mention because there's no other honorable mentions. All right. Not on that list. Let's see. You didn't mention, without me even looking, you didn't mention Joe Rogan. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend seems pretty popular. You didn't mention Tim Dillon. You didn't mention Mark Maron. You didn't mention Daily Comedy News, but that's okay. I understand. Films to Be Buried With, didn't mention that. Office Ladies, people seem to like Office Ladies. Totally understand you didn't mention Auntie Donna, but I will. Didn't mention This Past Weekend with Theo Vaughn. Didn't mention Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, whatever that is, 2 Cups, whatever, that. Didn't mention that. Didn't mention Kill Tony. Didn't mention Bill Maher. Didn't mention the Dana Gould Hour. I could understand if you didn't mention it. I happen to like it. Let's see what else. Now I'm curious at the things not mentioned. I'm heading on over to Apple Podcast comedy charts. Let's see here. Comedy. Didn't mention Smartless, which is always number 1. People seem to like that, but no, okay, I understand. Didn't mention Andrew Schultz. I understand he's not for everybody. I didn't see why you left that out. Okay, it happens. Las Culturistas. A lot of people like that one. Not on the list. But hey, make your own list, right? Thank you, Vulture, for the top 10 comedy podcasts of the year. Oh, all right. While I'm being Statler and Waldorf and eye-rolling everything, hey, Mythic Quest, you know, the show with Rob McElhenney. He was a video game designer, except he wasn't in half of the season 2 episodes. My son and I love It's Always Sunny. We watched Mythic Quest. We watched season 1 together. It was pretty good. And then season 2, talk about struggle to watch this thing. There were times where we were looking at each other. We had the same face that Bart Simpson has in the classic Simpsons episode where Itchy and Scratchy become friends, and Bart's just staring at the TV and eventually goes, "What the hell is this?" There were some episodes that Rob wasn't in, and we were like, what is even happening with this show? Season 2 was so bad, it has damaged me from hitting play on season 3. Well, good news, they're making a spin-off series. Mere Mortals, 8 episodes. It's set to follow the model of episodes of Mythic Quest like a Dark Quiet Death, Backstory, Everlight. Those are the ones that take place in the video game universe. Mere Mortals will explore the lives of employees, players, and fans who are impacted by the game at the center of the Mothership series. Apple TV Plus also announced The Reluctant Traveler, a new globe-trotting series hosted by Eugene Levy. That's cool. The 8-episode series follows Eugene as he visits some of the world's most beautiful and intriguing destinations in Costa Rica, Finland, Italy, Japan, the Maldives, Portugal, South Africa, and the United States. That's the budget-friendly episode. Bourdain used to do that all the time. Hey, yeah, I'm back from Cairo and Vietnam, and today I'm going to Queens. There was always a Bourdain episode like that. Eugene will explore remarkable hotels and the places and cultures surrounding them. Congratulations to Amy Poehler. She's joining the board of directors at the National Comedy Center, set in Jamestown, New York, the birthplace of Lucille Ball. Amy Poehler, in a statement, said the National Comedy Center is doing extraordinary work to preserve stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, sitcoms, cartoons, and so much more. Just for Laughs London announced a couple more things. Ed Gamble will be making his debut in The Wrestling, which will also feature Mike and Ivan in a tag team match and Rosie Jones defending her championship belt. She said, in Edinburgh, I pushed Nish Kumar through a table to win the wrestling championship, and on March 5th, you're going to see why I'm the champ. Daddy's coming to JFL London, and she's going to defend her big, shiny gold belt. And yesterday, I was doing a whole section on AI, and this is a callback. This is a podcast callback. It was probably about a year ago. I mentioned I had a dream that Adam Sandler had a movie called The Potato Chip Murders. He does not, but at the time I was like, you could see it happening. So I've been playing with that new AI thing that writes scripts. The college kids have been telling me about this. So I typed in, hey, AI, write a script for The Potato Chip Murders. And here is what the AI has proposed. In The Potato Chip Murders, Adam Sandler plays the role of a quirky detective named Jack. All right. Jack is called in to investigate a series of gruesome murders in which the victims have been found with bags of potato chips stuffed in their mouths. As Jack begins to investigate the murders, he discovers that all of the victims were part of a jury that had recently convicted a notorious mob boss. It quickly becomes clear that the murders are the work of the mob boss seeking revenge against the jurors. You know, that's better than most Adam Sandler movies, is it not, Mark Twain Prize winner? Jack, played by Adam Sandler, must use his unique investigative skills and quick wit to track down the mob boss and bring him to justice before he can kill again. Along the way, he receives help from a sassy forensic scientist named Lucy, who of course becomes a love interest for Jack. Adam Sandler, if you're listening, and I'm pretty sure you listen every day, I will give this idea to you. I don't want anything other than I want to be in the movie. I can play, I don't know, one of the jurors that gets murdered in the first 5 seconds. You can find me on the ground with potato chip bag stuffed in my mouth and go, that guy's fat and ugly and has no taste. You can do whatever you want. Call me. You know where to reach me, Adam. As Jack and Lucy work together to solve the case, they find themselves in danger from the ruthless mob boss and his henchmen. In the end, Jack and Lucy are able to bring the killer to justice, but not before they face life-threatening challenges and must use all of their cunning and bravery to survive. Adam Sandler stars as Jack in The Potato Chip Murders. You'll watch. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Wow, it's long today. I'm looking at the timer here. Woo. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.